Hi, and welcome back to Glassboxed, writing automated cucumber tests. This is the third video in my cucumber automation video series, and we are going to pick up where we left off. In that, in our first video, we just set up a proof of concept framework just to make sure that we are able to run our feature files. In our second video, we talked about into a little bit more detail about the runner class and feature classes, in particular the structure of the feature classes. So if you haven't already done so, I'd advise you have a quick glimpse, if you can at least, of the first two videos. So in this video, we're going to put all of this techie kind of setup side of the framework to one side and actually write a WebDriver tests. Right, so what are we going to do today? Well, the first thing we're going to do is make sure our framework is set up to run cucumber tests. We are going to manually have a look at what we're trying to automate using our Zoo website, the Zoo website that I built, and then writing a test for it, and then running our feature file, and then having a look at the results. So let's do that. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is set up our framework so that it is able to run WebDriver tests. To do that is very straightforward actually. All you have to do is navigate to Selenium HQ. For those who don't know how to go here, is you go to Google, just type download Selenium, go to seleniumhq.org and download the server from here. That's it. And once you've downloaded the jar, all you have to do is just attach it as part of a Java build path in Eclipse. Don't worry, I'll put the link in the description to this as well. So if we go back, all you have to do is right click on your project, go to properties, under Java build path libraries, just add in that external jar wherever it is that you're downloading. So this is mine, the Selenium server standalone. Okay, that. And that's it. Your framework is now ready to run WebDriver tests. In that, it will be able to pick up all the necessary API calls that you make. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to now finally write a feature file which will run some test on our Zoo side. So the test I'm going to run is, first thing I'm going to do is navigate to the home page, if you like, or the landing page. From here, all I'm going to do is go to the contact page, and when on the contact page, all I'm going to do is populate these fields. So I'm just going to say something like and hit send. Once I hit send, I'm just going to check that we are on this particular contact confirmation page, and that's it. So let's go ahead and write the feature file. So what I'm going to do is create a feature file in our features package, and I'm going to call it contact confirm.feature. I'm going to give it a description feature of to test contact form works when there are no errors. Then I'm going to write a scenario, which is to actually check form is validated when there are no errors. And I'm going to say, given I am on my Zoo website, when I click on the contact link and populate the contact form, then I should be on the contact confirmation page. There you go. I'm just gonna pretty format that so it's a bit nicely indented. Save it, and I'm going to run it. Right, so the reason why I run it without writing any step definition, some apologies to those who already know this from our previous videos, but the reason I did this is so that when this run, because these steps haven't been implemented, Cucumber really nicely says these haven't been implemented, and I am able to quite literally copy this into a step definition class, effectively making my life just a little bit easier. So I'm going to copy this, and then in the features package I'm going to create a brand new class, and I'm going to call this class step definitions. Finish that, and in here I'm just going to copy all of this in. I'm going to then press Ctrl Shift O to quickly import in all the necessary classes. I'm going to get rid of all of these pendings because I don't need them, because this is where we're going to now finally start to implement our WebDriver. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start actually building up WebDriver instances and start making the necessary calls. So what I'm going to say is WebDriver driver, just so that I can access the driver inside any of these methods. You've got to remember that when we write code, say in a method, I don't know, let's just say here, string something, for instance, because this variable is within this method, the scope of this variable is also within this method. So when this method finishes executing, the instance to this something string would be lost, which is why we're going to declare everything that we need as far as WebDriver is concerned outside of the methods. So here I'm going to say WebDriver is equal to null, and again let's import that in really quickly. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is well, let me rename our methods first as well. Should navigate to zoo site. I'm just going to say should click on contact link. This is should populate contact form, and lastly check on contact confirmation page. Right, so here the first thing I'm going to do is instantiate the driver. So I'm just going to driver is equal to a new Firefox driver, and then I'm going to say driver dot navigate to, and I'm just going to grab the address from here, so that's a little bit more quicker on my end. Okay, so now when this method runs, it's just going to effectively just open up a brand new Firefox browser, an empty browser, and then navigate to this website. The next thing I want to do is, and this is where the scoping of the variables comes in, is that see, notice now I can access the driver here as well, because the instance of it isn't lost, because it's been declared outside of the methods but within the class. So here I'm going to say driver dot find element by ID dot click, and what I now need to do is go and find the ID of the contact link. So if I quickly go back and just get the page source for this, so that's, where is it, view page source. So the contact, which is here, ID is contact underscore link. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it in here. That should now quite happily click on that link. So the next thing we're going to do is, as we said, when we're on the contact page, we said we would populate these fields. So again, let's really quickly have a look at the page source for this. So here it is, and then we have a look at the fields. So the fields are all they all have names, which is good, and they're all unique as well. So the name, so the enter name field is called name field, The address is address underscore field, postcode is postcode underscore field, and email is email underscore field. And the button has an ID of submit underscore message. So we're going to need this information. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So let's just do driver dot find element by name, and we're just going to do a send keys of something. So we know we need this 4 times because there are 4 fields. 2, 3, 4. The first one was called name underscore field. Name underscore field. Sorry about that. Then we had address underscore field. Then we had postcode underscore field, and finally email underscore field. And let's give it some meaningful data so we can just so that our test is a little bit more meaningful. So in the name I'm just gonna say Jack Joe. I don't think anyone is actually called Jack Joe. Address is I don't know, Happy Land. Sorry about that. Postcode is I don't know, let's just say A1 S22, and email address is I will subscribe to this channel. There you go. So, and the last thing we need to do to complete the form population is to just push the button, which was it had an ID. So let's do that ID, and we're just gonna click on it. And I think the ID was called submit underscore message. Right, perfect. So once we've populated the field, so let me just quickly populate it. Click send. Now all we want to do is confirm that we're on this page. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do an assert. So assert true. Let's get this. So we're gonna assert using a message. So we're gonna say not on contact confirmation page, just in case it breaks. And the condition we're gonna say is driver dot get title dot let's do equals equals. Let's tidy this up a bit. Equals contact confirmation. Okay, let's do a final import. Okay, now let's well, okay, before we run our test, let's see what's actually happening. So when we run our feature file, it's going to try and map all of these steps to a step definition, which we've defined here. And when it runs a step definition, it's gonna, for the first step where we try and navigate to the zoo, it's gonna create a new instance of the driver, and it's gonna open up an empty Firefox browser. It's then gonna navigate to our site. I guess I don't really need this index, it'll go there by default. For those who don't know, when a site has an index.html page, if no other rules are kind of governed or told, the index page is by default the page that a website navigates to. Just a little bit of extra know-how, I suppose, if you don't know, but that's very common knowledge, I think. So once it's navigated to that site, this method would, or rather this step would have then completed, and it would have gone back to the feature file and looked at the next step, which is when I click on the contact link. So then it comes back here, in which case the driver should still be able, well, it won't be null because it would have been instantiated here, and then it carry on doing the next step and so on. So it'll click on the contact link and then it try and populate the form and then submit the form and then finally do an assert. So let's save that and let's give it a go. Oh wait, I've just realized I've actually made a slight error. So okay, going back maybe about 5 or 10 minutes, when we ran our feature file without having any of the step definition defined, and the console printed out a number of pending steps. Well, if you have a look, when we copied in the steps, for whatever reason, Cucumber doesn't pick up the AND as part of a pending step, and it picked up a when instead. So if we have a look at our step definitions, the steps that we copied in, the AND was replaced with the when. So yeah, just make sure that you're kind of aware of that if you do decide to use my quick shortcut. Anyway, it's not a major overhead, I suppose, compared to the number of quick steps that Cucumber can print it for you. Anyway, right. So now that we're back, let's save it again, and we're gonna right click and run and see what happens. Perfect. So it's opened up a browser. It's clicked on contact. It's filled in the form. Hit send, and if we now go back to Eclipse, it's now basically telling us that it ran our scenarios and it's ran the steps, and where you see scenario, anything under that is usually a summary of your feature file running, and it said that it found a total of 1 scenario of which 1 passed, and there were a total of 4 steps of which 4 passed. So this is another way of saying there was 100% coverage in that all of your tests passed. And that's fantastic. That's exactly what we were expecting. But tell you what, going back to our assertion that we wrote, let's fail it on purpose. So let's take out the confirmation part and just leave the contact part in there. So what should happen now is, now when we run our feature file, what will happen is it'll go through the steps as normal, but when it tries to do the assertion, it will fail because the page will not be equal to contact. It'll be equal to contact confirmation. And in that instance, we should see this message which we provided print out as part of the assertion. So let's save it, right click and run again and see what happens. So it's opened the browser, clicked on contact, fill in the form, hit send, and now if we go back to Eclipse, we now have an assertion error. So it's basically saying that it was able to run the first 3 steps without any issues, but when it tried to run the last step, i.e. then I should be on the contact confirmation page step, it said that there is an assertion failed error, and it's printed out the message that we provided. More importantly, if you look at the very bottom where I said all the scenario, the summary of your test is quite literally said that it's found 1 scenario of which 1 failed, and it's found 4 steps of which 3 passed and 1 failed. This should be self-explanatory. Even though we had a couple of steps pass in our scenario, the scenario entirely failed because it didn't complete from end to end, hence why it said 1 scenario failed. So if you were to take this from a testing perspective, we have failed all our tests, which is good. And at the bottom it's kind of giving you a little bit more explanation as to where the failure is. In fact, if you then follow these links that is provided as part of the stack trace, it will take you exactly where it's failed. And that's it for this video, folks. We covered not that much theoretical information, but we certainly covered more technical. We especially covered how to write finally a WebDriver script that goes with our feature script. So yeah, if you enjoy my videos and find they bring you some new knowledge or insight into writing Cucumber tests, and then yeah, please subscribe and rate. If you have any questions or video suggestions, then please leave a comment below. Many thanks for watching. Until next time, ciao.